love me some gardening. Gardening's what I do. Growing some hot peppers for my family and you. Oh, caught me off guard. How you doing? So anyway, yeah, I was just gardening. Don't mind my, antics or anything. I guess you're here for part 2 of overwintering to get a head start next year. So yeah, why don't we get started? Come on, let's go. You're being shy. Come on, let's go. Let's go. I'm gonna show you how to do this. Are you eating? What are you doing? Come on. Let's go. All right, let's go. All right, so first of all, I want to thank my subscribers. I love you for putting up with my antics. If you haven't checked out my other videos where I try hot sauces and stuff, it's all relative, but I do crazy stuff while I'm doing those videos. All in hopes that you can enjoy my creativity. I can share my mind with you, and hopefully somehow you'll get it. But just real quick, if you notice, these plants aren't looking too happy. It's been sinking to about 40 degrees at night. We're getting about 70 degrees during the day, but their water consumption rate has slowed down significantly. So they're holding on to water, and the leaves are starting to yellow. I have been feeding them regularly. I'm trying to keep them producing up until I actually bring the rest of them in. So a lot of the stuff is kind of staged just for you guys. These plants that I cut back are just for you. I'm actually going to show a comparison, okay? I've cut back another one. I'm about to cut back another one, and then I'm going to do a recap on what we did last time, and then I'll show you the difference over the winter of what you're looking at if you're doing a dormancy plant or just maybe a window light plant versus a grow light plant. And depending on what you want, you can decide what you're doing. Now, I like to get fruit from the plants over winter, so I like to put them under a light. I like to feed them. I like to see them produce. I also do that because I also like to do cross pollination and create new pods, stuff like that. So depending on what you want to do, that's what we're going over today, okay? And yeah, why don't we head down to the grow area? I'll show you what I'm working with. Also, I have an update on that plant that I showed you in the first video. And while we're at it, why don't we get back to the little recap, show you how I did this in case you didn't watch that video. And actually, if you didn't watch that video, you should probably watch that one first. So anyway, let's get started. All right, so episode 1, I did a little choppy. I cut the plant back to its main nodes. I removed the plant from its pot. I talked about how I need to rinse it off because I don't like fungus gnats. And I proceeded to rinse out the soil. And then I took that soilless plant right there, gave it some fresh soil with some nutrients that are naturally in the soil, plus some feeding ingredients. And then I gave it a little drink till the water came out the bottom. And then I talked about giving it some neem oil with a little bit of soap so that way I can kill off any insects. And then I brought it inside. All right, here we are. Back at the original plant that I cut back in part 1. And as you can see, we have new growth. Quite a bit of new growth, actually. Healthy looking green leaves. Getting ready to turn into some new branches there as they stem out. And it's looking healthy, especially after I tortured the hell out of the roots when I blasted it with water. But it shows you how resilient and how tough pepper plants actually are. They just want to do what they're programmed to do. And it's been 18 days. 18 days, I have not watered it either. If you look at the top of the soil, it's looking pretty dry. I'm gonna do the weight test, much lighter. And I'm going to do the finger test. And it feels pretty dry down there. So it is about time for watering. At this point, once I have leaves, which you can see, they're gonna start to give me indicators on whether the plant's thirsty or not. So I made it past the first part, the hardest part. but they came back super fast. I'm surprised. Now, the soil that I used actually had a little bit of feed in it, plus the natural nutrients that come with, you know, potting soil. So that maybe helped it progress a bit. But like I said, it is time for some water. Now, I want to do an experiment, and hopefully you guys will follow me on this experiment and we can see what happens together. I haven't tried this before, but my thinking is, and I'll show you what I'm going to give it. I'm going to try some bloom food. And you're probably wondering, why would you give it bloom food when it's, you know, starting up? Well, bloom food has high phosphorus and potassium in it, which is not just good for getting bloom, it's also good for stimulating root growth. And my thought process here is, if I can stimulate the root growth and get this thing to bottom out quickly, all that energy is going to return. It's going to come back into the plant and it's just going to explode. So I think I'm going to start it out, and I'm going for a very quick recovery here because, you know, I want to have peppers over the winter. I want to make hot sauces and stuff. So I'm going to try this. It's only got 4 nitrogen. That should be enough to get it moving along as far as growth and, you know, leaf production. But I really want to boost the roots. And then I think what I'll do is, once I see that the roots are kind of, I'll be able to feel it with my finger, they're kind of expanded out, they're going deep, I'll switch it over to something with a little bit of a higher nitrogen, help shape the plant, get it to, you know, bush out. And then when I feel comfortable with the size and shape of the plant, I think I'll return back to the bloom food. Now, it's all theoretical right now, but I believe this will work. And that's the bonus of having sacrificial plants. When you have so many pepper plants, you can just mess around with them. So let's go ahead and give this thing a little drink. And yeah, let's do that. All right, so we're gonna give a little bit of water here. And what we wanna do is we wanna wait to see that water come out of the bottom of the pot. Same thing as usual. You don't want to half water. You never want to underwater. You want to make sure that you wait for the soil to get kind of dry, give it a good soaking, wait for the water to come out of the bottom like so. Okay, because you want the water to go deep into the pot. Why? Because you want the roots to run out of water up top when that dries out first, because that's what happens. And you want them to chase the water, basically follow that water down to the bottom of the pot. That's going to help your root system grow better. And keep in mind, the drinking roots, the ones that actually absorb the most water, are the ones closest to the bottom. Your respiratory roots are the ones that are closer to the top. So if you're just watering your respiratory roots, it's not going to help the plant out, right? So nice deep drink, wait for the cycle to begin again. It'll start to dry out, check the weight, finger the pot, don't get excited. And you'll be good to go. So yeah, that's the progress on this plant. It is looking pretty good. I'm quite happy. I may do some pruning, you know, as this thing starts to grow, because I want to keep this thing in check. I don't want it to go all squirrely on me. And yeah, so I am quite happy. So we'll keep checking on the other plants. In fact, let me go show you what I did with plants number 2 and number 3, where they're at, what their situation is for the winter. And then we'll be able to compare these over the winter and see the difference in progress, see if we can keep one dormant, one semi-dormant, and one just exploding in the tent. And keep in mind why I'm doing this. I cut this back to ensure that I have no disease, no insects, no nothing on the plant. I cleaned the soil to make sure I had nothing living in the soil. I can bring it in knowing that I have no pests, and then I can regrow it fairly quickly and have a nice, clean, healthy plant and produce nice, clean, healthy chilies all winter long. So let's go check on the other plants. Plant number 2, I strategically placed on my dog food container there. We get some natural light here, so let's see what happens with this one. And let's see what I did with plant number 3. All right, and plant number 3, I've placed outside of my tent on the cooler side of my basement. And there's some light that will come through a window here earlier in the day, just a little bit. But where it's at, it will stay cooler. It will receive much less light, and hopefully this one will stay dormant. All right, guys, so that pretty much concludes part 2 of overwintering your plant to get a better start next season. We will be comparing this plant with the other 2 plants throughout the season, pretty much all winter long. I'll be doing this actually until I go and take these back outside again. So hopefully you'll join me and see how this experiment turns out, and we can see what the difference is between the window plant, the grow light plant, and the dormancy plant. And hopefully all 3 do well over the winter. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, if you learned anything from it, please go ahead and subscribe if you'd like, and you know, turn your notification bell on, give me a like, and we can take this journey over the winter together. If you're on Instagram, follow me at the Mighty Mustache, same thing, just with 2 underscores, and you know, share your progress if you're overwintering. Like I said, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. It's an experiment with the bloom food, but you will eventually want to give your plant some sort of nutrition if you're going to overwinter it under a grow light like I am. So we'll get into that as we get further into this. But yeah, thanks again, guys, so much for following, subscribing if you do. And thank you to all my subscribers. You inspire me to make more videos every day. So have a good day, have a good night, whatever time it is, have a good one.